Did you know Darth Maul killed a Yuuzhan Vong warrior in hand-to-hand combat? All that and more on today's Star Wars Legends lore video. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be covering content from Maul Lockdown, a 2014 Star Wars Legends book. As a note, if you want to support the channel, you can get a free audiobook by going to audibletrial.com/EckhartsLadder. You can listen to the unabridged version of Maul Lockdown or basically any other Star Wars Legends book. If you need some recommendations, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or Discord. But let's get to the content. In 33 BBY, 1 year before the Battle of Naboo, and also 60 years before the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, Darth Maul is still apprenticed to Sith Lords Plageuis and Sidious. The warrior is sent to a prison station known as Cog Hive 7, where he is responsible for finding an arms dealer and retrieving a weapon for his Sith masters. Within Cog Hive 7, prisoners were pitted against each other in brutal gladiatorial death matches. By the time Maul arrived, an unknown alien had been champion for some time. Let me read an excerpt from the novel. Last night's former champion had been a particularly monstrous species that the prison's most sophisticated recognition algorithms hadn't been able to identify. 2 meters tall and cross-hatched with ritualistic scars, brandishing some kind of living staff and little else, the inmate had arrived here on Cog Hive 7 6 months earlier with a shipment of other convicts, 2 of whom it had already dispatched in transit. Since that time, the thing had defied all attempts at classification. It had screeched and chattered a language none recognized and systematically slaughtered everything pitted against it. This is clearly a Yuuzhan Vong warrior. It uses an organic staff, which is clearly a Vong amphistaff. It's unrecognized by the station's computers because it's from another galaxy. It self-mutilates and matches the Vong physically. The book actually opens up with the fight between an undercover Maul, the newest inmate of the station, and the Vong warrior. I'm going to read a shortened version of it here, but just for the record, it's very, very brutal. Wham! Then came a punch at Maul sideways, spinning his upper body around with the sheer force of the impact and driving him back a half step before he fully recovered his equilibrium. He spat out a tooth and wiped away the blood. The creature in front of him was a walking trophy case of previous kills. 2.5 meters high, its massive shoulders and upper torso encased in jagged plates of primitive armor that clearly had once served as the jawbone and carapace of a much larger predator. It seemed to occupy an entire corner of the prison cell. Maul stared at the thing. The gray slope of its face was a surgeon's nightmare of ritualistic scars, organic rings, loops, and fibrous hooks with bluish sacs pulsating beneath its eyes, all of it siphoning down and inward towards a gaping, razor-toothed mouth. As a quick note here, the description of the face, including the small blue sacs here, confirm that this was a Yuuzhan Vong warrior. Continuing. Even its arms seemed to have been plucked from 2 different organisms. The right hand was a blunt-knuckled fist, the left an elongated spider-fingered claw. Together, they formed a mallet and blade, one made for pounding, the other for slashing. The thing reached down and picked up Maul's incisor from the floor of the cell. Straightening up, it shoved the tooth into an empty space in its own mouth, twisting it until it lodged in place. Then it grinned at Maul as if it was asking how he liked the sight of one of his own teeth in its mouth, another trophy for its collection. Maul sprang at the creature, so close now that he could smell the corpse stink pouring off it like rotten meat. He fell into a reflexive series of moves. Both hands shot out and grabbed the creature by its throat, hoisting it up over his head and squeezing until he felt the deep tendons of its neck beginning to give and weaken in his grip. There was a wet, muffled click from somewhere inside the thing's chest, and a sudden glut of warm, thick, sticky fluid began spurting out from its throat. He tightened his grip, and more blood leapt up, inky, black, and viscous, pouring from its mouth and eye sockets. Maul swung the creature around and slammed it to the floor with a sharp clang. The thing's head drooped on its broken neck, lolling sideways to expose the throbbing vessels beneath its gray flesh. He raised his foot and planted his heel into the exposed throat, ready to pulverize the trachea or whatever the thing used for an airway, with one decisive stomp. With blinding speed, the creature yanked loose and burst upright, reaching behind its back to produce what appeared to be a long bow staff. Maul realized that the weapon, which he'd first taken to be a piece of wood or some biomechanical hybrid, was actually a living organism, a serpent whose head lashed out at lightning velocity, latching onto his face, slashing at his eyes. Maul recoiled and his vision was gone, burying him in instant darkness. This was the second time in as many seconds that the creature had caught him off guard, and now he knew why. The creature was somehow cut off from the Force, utterly detached from the deep field of heightened sensitivity from which he was constantly drawing information about his surroundings. An acidic heaviness took hold of his optic nerves like a slow drip, seeping in, sinking deep, and he realized that he could already feel the poison taking control. Reaching up, Maul grasped the head of the serpent staff, seizing its blunt nose and fanged mouth. His fingers took a hold of the distended upper part, twisting, wrenching, until he tore the serpent's head off its body with a moist and meaty pop. He then grabbed his opponent, reaching into its open mouth, feeling the moist warmth of its breath on his hand, as he retrieved his tooth, plucking it from the thing's gums. Holding the mouth agape, Maul crammed the serpent's severed head inside, then clamped the gray lips tight to keep the snake's head from falling out. He ripped 3 of the larger piercings from the thing's right arm and jammed them upward through the lips, bedding them back into barbed hooks and fastening the mouth shut with the serpent's head still trapped inside. Inside his attacker's mouth, the snake was sinking its fangs in reflexively, squirting out venom while the attacker jerked and spasmed in vain, trying to scream. Still sightless, now holding his opponent at arm's length, Maul inclined his own head down. He thrust forward, driving his horns into the thing's sagging eyes, feeling them crushed to jelly against his scalp. The spasm stopped, and Maul stepped back, releasing the body and allowing it to collapse at his feet. So this is an absolutely brutal battle. Maul is temporarily blinded, he loses a tooth, but he inflicts serious, devastating damage on the Yuuzhan Vong warrior, breaking its neck, using its own amphistaff as a weapon, destroying its eyes with his horned head. All in all, this is one of the most brutal battles in Star Wars. And it makes me wonder, how useful would have Maul been during the Yuuzhan Vong War? In this battle, he defeats an armed Vong warrior with only his hands. As instructed by Sidious, he did not use his lightsaber or the Force. And really, I think the Sith would better counter the Vong than the Jedi. The Jedi rely largely on self-reflection, given that the Vong are cut off from the Force but can still be affected by things like thrown rocks and on some occasions even Force lightning. Perhaps an army of Sith could have better repelled the invasion, but let me know what you think. How do you rate Darth Maul's performance here as well as the performance of his Yuuzhan Vong enemy? Why do you think this one Vong agent was in the galaxy almost 60 years before the invasion? Dark Tide tells us that there were Vong scouts in the galaxy that early, but what do you think this individual specimen was doing? Finally, do you think the Sith would have been better enemies against the Vong, or do you think the unifying nature of the light side of the Force gives the Jedi more of an advantage? Let me know all of that and more down in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, this has been EckhartsLadder. Until next time, may the Force be with you.